Welcome to On the Couch, a regular catch-up where we discuss many of the issues facing media, marketing and advertising and hopefully provide some solutions. Today I'm joined by Michael Morrison, the founder of Blacklight Principle, a workplace mental wellness consultancy. Welcome, Michael.
Darren, hello.
One of the reasons for getting you on the couch, and this is not a psychiatric couch, it's just a place for a good chat.
No, indeed it is.
But it's because when we talk about workplace health, we're inclined to focus on physical harm and not mental harm.
Correct.
And why do you think that is?
I think that we're more familiar with it. I think that we have a lot more knowledge about what physical health is ourselves as individuals. It doesn't require any obligation when you tell somebody, I've got a flu, I can't come in for 3 days. It's kind of like, oh, well, get better. When you're better, come in. Then when you start talking about mental illness, it's still a mystery to some people. They don't feel as comfortable with it. They don't have as a greater knowledge about it. And therefore, as managers, we don't quite know what to do with someone who might actually a bit fragile, I'm not well, I'm not up to it, I might have been in bed the past 24 hours sleeping, etc.
So you're saying that there is still a stigma attached to mental illness, isn't there? Even though society's moved forward.
It has moved forward, there's no doubt that it has. However, there are those people who still don't find it as comfortable, and then I think that's the word. You're not as comfortable discussing a mental illness as you are discussing any physical illnesses that you might have.
But do you believe that it's still improving, that people are now more open to discussing mental health and mental wellness in the workplace?
I think what has happened in society is that people become more open, and therefore you see more celebrities discussing it. That might give people more permission to feel free to discuss it. The advent of different institutions like Black Dog, Beyond Blue, SANE, Reach Out, those organisations have done an enormous amount to raise the profile of mental health as an issue. And therefore people, I think, are a little bit more comfortable about saying, okay, this is something which I need to think about, and therefore, how does it apply to me, or how does it apply to, apparently, about, 1 in 5 people.
Well, how does it apply to you? I mean, what did it take for you to be able to stand up and say, I'm really struggling with some issues here?
The sort of depression that I suffer from, part of it is genetic, but it took a couple of life events, one of which were relationship breakdowns, but also coming to the end of my career with certain companies. I then felt, I suppose, free to be able to not think about work all the time. And in so doing, I began thinking about my own health and thought that the way that I was feeling was not normal, that it was not healthy, and that this is something which needed to be addressed. And so from my point of view, it was one of those moments where it wasn't, some sort of heraldic event. It was, this is something which I've been putting off and trying to, and work has masked all of that. And various levels of achievement can mask all of that. And then I had space to go, no, I'm not well.
Because I think, there is that focus, especially for men, where they're climbing the corporate ladder and it's at any expense.
Yes.
Particularly self-care is one of the first things that men throw to aside. So, what have you seen in your experience of the way, especially senior people in business have dealt with things like, grief and depression and stress?
The expression I always come back to and that's ringing in my ears is push on. Simply just push on regardless.
It's quite a sporting club metaphor, isn't it? When the going gets tough, the tough get going.
It's all that soldier on stuff, and it's the absence of self-care, and then that also leads to an absence of care in others. So there are 3 people who I would meet. There'd be people who would know about my condition and they would care about it. There'd be people who would know about my condition and not care about it at all. And then there'd be those who don't know and therefore they don't care. And they're the 3 types of people who I would run into in business. However, it is the absence of self-care which then leads to, I think, any sort of ambivalence regarding somebody else's conditions, like you're being, conditioned to ignore it because you're ignoring yourself.
Yeah. So what would you recommend if there's someone watching this video and they're really going through that sense of, you know, they're struggling?
Yep.
What's the first step to get help?
Don't wait for a major event in order to get help like I did. I had to go through some real catastrophic life events in order to get help. If you are feeling, or if you feel like, listen, I'm struggling here, speak to your GP straight away. Be thoughtful about who you might confide in at work, because not everyone who smiles at you is your friend, and you might be in competitive businesses. And as a result of that, you've got to be careful about those that might professionally prejudice you with that information. So what I'm doing...
Get professional help.
Is get professional help and treat it the same way that you would treat it as another illness, with that same degree of diligence. And don't think that simply it is going to pass, or that this is something that should be ignored. And if we continue to suppress it long enough, it'll be ignored. And generally what we do is we suppress it with things that are of addiction.
Yeah.
And addiction is, avoiding feelings.
Or self-destructive.
They become very self-destructive. And if all addiction is the avoidance of feelings, then you mask it, be it with alcohol or be it with more work. And there are a million ways in which you could mask, ignoring how you really are. So as they say, honesty is the first step to recovery. So being honest with yourself is actually the first step, I think, in self-care, and actually putting your hand up and saying, I think I can feel better than this, and I deserve to feel better. Yeah.
Michael, I really appreciate you sharing that. I think it's such an important message that we should be getting out there into business and industry.
Yeah, indeed. And it's not just something for male executives. I'm sure that there are a lot of female executives in very competitive environments that don't feel comfortable about revealing any sort of vulnerability. And this is not about putting your hand up in front of 100 others at an AA meeting. It's about going and seeing a GP and getting some professional help
you need.
And attend to yourself, because you're worth it. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the couch.
Not at all.
And thank you for joining us on the couch. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more On the Couch coming soon.